And Keith Urban, when my cheek is against yours, everything melts away. And that is love. No, he would hate. I don't think anyone's the perfect anything. I think you're heading for trouble if you consider yourself the perfect couple, which is kind of what Greer said.
What happens when the one Hollywood couple you thought would last forever doesn't? For 19 years, Nicole Kidman and Keith Urban gave us everything we wanted to believe in. The red carpets, the stolen glances, that perfect mix of Oscar-winning elegance and country star grit. They weren't just married, they were the marriage. The one that made cynics soften and romantics swoon. So when the divorce announcement dropped, it didn't just break the internet. It shattered something deeper.
No, it's not going to go back to the way it was. I'm not going back to the way I was.
Fans froze mid-scroll. News alerts lit up phones like wildfire. Comment sections exploded with denial, confusion, heartbreak. No, not them. Anyone but them. Because here's the thing, we'd heard whispers before. Vague rumors floating around like smoke. Anonymous tips, speculative headlines that never stuck. But this time, this was official. No publicist spin, no damage control. Just cold, hard truth. After nearly 2 decades, it was over. And honestly, it felt personal. Like we'd all been living vicariously through their love story. And suddenly, the book slammed shut. This wasn't just another celebrity split to scroll past. This was the end of something we believed in. The kind of love that was supposed to prove Hollywood magic still existed. But then came the question no one could shake: what really happened behind those picture-perfect smiles? And that's when Antonia Kidman stepped into the spotlight, Nicole's younger sister. Not some tabloid informant looking for a payday, not a so-called source close to the family hiding behind anonymity. This was blood, real family. And Antonia isn't just anyone. She's a journalist herself, known for integrity, for choosing her words carefully. She doesn't do messy. She doesn't do clickbait. So when she agreed to sit down for an exclusive interview, people listened, because if Antonia was talking, it meant something had shifted. Something big. She didn't show up to defend Nicole with vague platitudes or surface-level support. No, she came with details. The kind of intimate, behind-closed-doors truth that Nicole herself had never spoken about publicly. Suddenly, the narrative everyone thought they understood, completely rewritten. Antonia pulled back the curtain on a marriage the world had placed on a pedestal, revealing cracks that had been forming in the shadows for years. This wasn't about scandal or betrayal, it was about reality. The messy, complicated, human reality that lives beneath the Instagram posts and award show speeches. And for the first time, someone who actually knew what was happening, someone who'd watched Nicole navigate this pain in private, was finally telling the truth. The question now wasn't just why did they split, it was what did we miss? Here's what Antonia revealed. This didn't happen overnight. There was no explosive fight, no dramatic betrayal splashed across headlines. Instead, it was slow, quiet, almost invisible to everyone watching from the outside. On the surface, Nicole and Keith looked perfect. Still holding hands at premieres, still gushing about each other in interviews. But underneath, small fractures were spreading like hairline cracks in glass. It started with their career, both massive, both demanding. Nicole jetting off to film sets across continents, Keith on endless world tours, living out of buses and hotel rooms. What once felt thrilling, the jet-setting power couple lifestyle, started feeling like a cage. They were together, but never really together. The distance wasn't just physical, it was emotional. Days turned into weeks apart, weeks turned into months, and when they did reunite, it felt borrowed, temporary, like they were guests in each other's lives instead of partners building one. Then there was the lifestyle clash. Nicole craved privacy. Quiet mornings, family dinners away from cameras. Keith, he thrived in the chaos, the crowds, the spotlight, the constant connection with fans. Neither was wrong, but the gap between what they each needed, it kept widening. And no one on the outside saw it happening until it was too late. And then Antonia said something that hit like a gut punch. Sometimes love alone isn't enough. Let that sink in, because here's the brutal truth everyone struggles to accept. Nicole and Keith loved each other. You could see it in every photo, every speech, every moment their eyes locked, like the rest of the world disappeared. That wasn't fake, that wasn't PR, that was real. But love, as powerful as it is, couldn't carry the weight of everything else. Behind those affectionate red carpet moments were exhausting, painful conversations neither of them wanted to have. The reality, their careers weren't just jobs, they were empires. Each demanding constant attention, energy, sacrifice, and trying to coordinate 2 massive global lives, it stopped feeling like a partnership. It became a logistical nightmare, a never-ending game of calendar Tetris that nobody could win. They weren't falling out of love, they were drowning in circumstances love couldn't fix: the distance, the conflicting schedules, the public pressure, the private compromises that kept piling up. It became impossible to sustain. Their hearts, still connected, but their realities pulling in completely opposite directions. And at some point they both realized something devastating. No matter how much they loved each other, the life they built together was slowly suffocating what they had. Sometimes the saddest endings aren't about lost love, they're about love that couldn't survive the world around. So how does someone like Nicole Kidman, intensely private, fiercely protective of her family, arrive at a decision this massive? Antonia made it clear, this wasn't impulsive. This wasn't a reaction to one bad fight or a moment of weakness. Nicole spent months sitting with it, turning it over in her mind, weighing every angle, every consequence, every possible future. There were late-night conversations with family that stretched until dawn. Tears, silence, moments of clarity followed by waves of doubt. She wasn't just thinking about herself, she was thinking about Keith, about their daughters, about what staying together would cost versus what leaving might heal. This wasn't driven by scandal. There was no third party, no tabloid bombshell waiting to drop. It was something deeper and honestly, more painful. It was about emotional honesty. Nicole needed to be certain, absolutely, unshakably certain, because once you make a choice like this, there's no going back. And after all those sleepless nights, all those soul-searching conversations, she arrived at a conclusion that broke her heart, but felt undeniably true. Divorce was the healthiest path forward. Not out of anger, not out of resentment, but out of love. For herself, for Keith, for their girls. It was the hardest kind of brave. And here's where Nicole and Keith showed the world exactly who they are, because the moment that announcement went public, they could have gone messy. They could have leaked stories, pointed fingers, let their pain spill into petty headlines, but they did. Instead, they did something rare in Hollywood divorces. They chose grace. From day one, their focus was crystal clear. Protect the girls. Their daughters didn't ask for any of this, didn't ask to have their family's private pain become public spectacle. So Nicole and Keith made a pact. No bitter statements, no blame game, no dragging each other through the media mud, just quiet mutual respect. They both released carefully worded messages, emphasizing their commitment to co-parenting with love and stability, promising their children that even though mom and dad's marriage was ending, their family wasn't broken, just different. And you know what? People noticed. In an era where celebrity splits usually come with leaked texts and dueling PR teams, this felt almost revolutionary. They were putting their kids first, putting decency first. It didn't erase the heartbreak, but it showed something powerful, that even when love changes form, respect doesn't have to die. They were proving that the end of a marriage doesn't have to mean the end of kindness. And honestly, that might be the most beautiful part of this whole devastating story. The internet predictably lost its mind. Social media became a battleground of emotions within hours. Fans were devastated. They were the last ones. Someone tweeted, and it got hundreds of thousands of likes. If Nicole and Keith couldn't make it, what hope do the rest of us have? Comment sections flooded with broken heart emojis and essays about lost faith in love. People weren't just sad, they felt betrayed, like they'd invested years of emotional energy into this couple's success story, only to watch it crumble. But then something interesting happened. A second wave rolled in. Supportive voices praising their maturity. This is how you divorce with dignity. One viral post, fans started acknowledging how rare it is to see A-list stars handle something this painful, without turning it into a circus. They applauded the lack of drama, the focus on their children, the refusal to weaponize the media. Of course, the speculators couldn't help themselves. Theories exploded overnight. Who made the first move? Was there someone else? What really happened behind closed doors? Anonymous insiders crawled out of the woodwork with contradicting stories. But here's what mattered. Nicole and Keith stayed silent. They didn't engage, didn't fuel the fire. They let their actions speak louder than any headline ever could. And somehow, that silence said everything. So what does this all mean? Strip away the glamour, the fame, the red carpets, and you're left with something painfully human. Nicole Kidman and Keith Urban's story isn't just about a celebrity divorce. It's a mirror reflecting back a truth most of us don't want to face. Even the strongest love can buckle under impossible weight. For nearly 2 decades, we watched them. We saw the curated moments, the award show kisses, the social media posts that made us believe in fairy tales. But behind every perfect photo was a reality we couldn't see. Grueling schedules, endless sacrifice, the suffocating pressure of living under a microscope where every move is analyzed, criticized, monetized. They gave us everything we wanted to see, but what they were living, that was something else entirely. And here's the thing that's hard to swallow. Their divorce doesn't erase those 19 years. It doesn't invalidate what they built together. The memories, the daughters, the lessons learned, the love that was real. Even if it couldn't survive forever, this isn't a failure, it's an ending. And endings, as brutal as they are, can also be honest, courageous, necessary. Nicole and Keith are stepping into separate futures now, carrying pieces of each other forward. Different chapters, new paths, but still connected by the family they created, and the respect they chose to maintain. It's bittersweet, it's heartbreaking, but it's also deeply, etchingly real. And maybe that's the point. Maybe the real story here isn't about why they split. It's about what their split reveals. That love and fame don't always play by the same rule. That you can do everything right and still watch something beautiful fall apart. That sometimes the bravest thing you can do is let go, even when every part of you wants to hold on. Nicole and Keith didn't give us the ending we wanted. They didn't ride off into the sunset holding hands forever, but they gave us something else. a masterclass in how to fall apart without losing yourself, how to prioritize your children over your ego, how to choose compassion when chaos would be easier. This isn't the fairy tale we hoped for, but it's a reminder that behind every Hollywood fantasy are real people making impossible choices, and sometimes the most loving thing you can do is admit when the story needs to change. So here's the question that lingers as their chapter closes. What does it take to make love last in the spotlight? Is it timing, sacrifice, luck, or is it simply knowing when to hold on and when to let